Hi everyone, welcome back to the Journey of Now with myself, Karis, and my partner, Nick. And today I really wanted to explore profound subjects of innate worthiness and what unconditional love truly means. And Nick and I were having a conversation about our inner child and just the things that become really re-triggering in our adulthood. And what are the things that you would say to your inner child within all the modalities that we've explored, be it plant medicine or theta healing or any other alternative types of holistic support or healing work. It becomes incredibly clearer that all we really want as adults is to just come to the space of where we're connected to that joy, that freedom, that wildness that came with being a child and not having to be weighed down by the worries of the world. And that it doesn't make sense.
We were jumping around different topics. Where do you start sharing a different perspective or a different way of approaching this part of ourselves that is so separate in how we live our adult lives? It's kind of like we forget about it.
And it's been such a central theme of why we actually started this work, and the biggest reason why people come to us as well, I would say, and even just in terms of our biggest core wounds as well, and the way that we do things. I think it's been like a central theme in both of our lives.
It's where it started. It is where it started. Inner child healing work was where the focus began. It was once we started peering behind that veil, it was apparent that those dialogues, those conversations, those patterns, those recurring thoughts, those recurring ideas that were not necessarily built up by ourselves but taken in because of our environment and what we were exposed to, that had played a major role in the adults that we were. And that by default meant that our relationship was affected by that, our self-perception was affected by that, our interactions with our parents were affected by that, our interactions with our friends, down to how we adulted our lives and saw money, and everything tied back into the identity that was formed around. And I think the way that we wanted to convey that within this conversation today, peering into what our journey may have been like in some of those moments, and even now, we wanted to bring up a phrase that we could center this conversation around.
Or even just little notes or subject lines of things that we would want to tell ourselves when we were younger. And I think it even goes so to say, people speak about self-sabotage or low self-esteem and all of those things. But if you see yourself as this child that's broken and unloved and that constantly has to audition or do things in order to be worthy of things, that theme is going to carry out and infect everything that you do in your life. And so to be able to really look at it with awareness and start making better choices when you recognize the patterns of things within your space, that's when you start really feeling empowered within taking the steps, and not just taking the steps, but actually embodying that version that you innately are instead of projections or your conditioned self, and then acting from there. And I think that's the beginning of really rewriting your story and living a life that you as your inner self are proud of. And it starts with just that embodiment, that conscious awareness, and that presence of yourself. And we've seen it, the more you go into this journey, the more you sort of realize that there's a lot of grown-ups who are just children in the suit of grown-ups. Like they're just wearing a suit. But like I always think back to what Maya Angelou said when she said, I've lived a very simple life. And I'm just going to read what she said here verbatim, but every human being has paid the earth to grow up. Most people don't grow up because it's too damn difficult. What happens is most people get older, and that's the truth. The truth of it. They honor their credit cards, they find parking spaces, they marry, they have the nerve to have children, but they don't grow up. Not really, because they just get older. But to grow up costs the earth, and it means that you take responsibility for the time you take up, for the space that you occupy, and it's serious business. And you find out what it costs to love and to lose and to dare and to fail, and maybe more to succeed, what it costs in truth. Not the superficial cost that anybody can have, I mean in truth. It goes on, but I think a lot of this conversation and what this series is about is speaking to that and giving you just the tools and helping you set that foundation, for that like safety net for yourself, just to know that it's safe. Like, do the things, be brave, come out and fail, come do the things that you actually want to do, and there's a whole life at the end of it.
So let's start off with the phrase that we were going to focus on today. What does it mean to you when you say to yourself that I will not abandon you?
To me, it's a commitment to stay connected to our own inner child. It's about recognizing that our self-worth isn't dependent on external validation, achievements, or appearance. It's that promise to show up for ourselves even when it's painful or challenging. It's this like creed within ourselves to build that foundation from the inside out and not from the outside in, because the outside in is like, it'll crumble. The bones of that house is not strong. There'll come a little window, a storm, and then you crumble, and then you try and reach out and find things. And anyone who continues to abandon themselves, it is so easy to leave other people and to leave when it starts feeling hard, to not complete projects because it's too difficult. When you learn the thing and to embody, it's that promise that you actually innately needed from your parents, I think. Because I think we've learned so much through the actions or the way that we've been parented ourselves on a personal note, how transactional love can be, and how much that outcome or how much love you're receiving or the authenticity of that connection is based on how much you're doing or what it is that you're bringing or not doing. And that not getting is the punishment of those things. Whereas when you make that promise to yourself of I will not abandon you, it's that foundation of unconditional love. It's that thing that really says, I'm not going anywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing, how difficult it gets, I'm yeah. And when you have that foundation of trust and that net of like just that safety net within yourself, it's like, actually, it doesn't matter how bad it gets, like I've got myself, I've got you.
But I think that's where, if you then deconstruct that a bit, why it becomes such a profound statement is because we have connected our value to what we do. And many a times our caregivers would validate good behavior over us as a person.
Yeah.
So you need to be a good boy, you need to be a good girl, and then you get mommy and daddy's love. Then mommy and daddy's here, but if you're bad, go to your room. It wasn't this thing of you are a child first, a person first, I love you first, unconditionally as just a human being having an experience. I will never abandon you because that on its own is incredible and I get to share this experience with you. And my role and responsibility as that caregiver is to help you decipher and understand the difference between, actions that are for your highest good and maybe actions that are not for your highest good through my lens, but eventually through your own lens. And many of us were not given that opportunity because our actions were directly correlated to our self-worth. It was directly connected to how we were going to be treated, how we were going to be seen, and depending on the outcome of said action, if it met the criteria and the frameworks and whatever was expected of us, then we would get that validation. Then we would not be abandoned. And it's an uncomfortable idea to look at, because there's so many different functions of this that play out within our lives without even being aware of, oh wow.
This is why I'm saying I think this is a central, like, core wound for a lot of people, because this extends even to your relationship with your God, or just relationship with people, or what you see as powerful in your life, because it's a reflection of how we were parented to a degree, or the idealistic version, or this idealistic projection of what we would have wanted as a parent, and that's the projection we put on God or that divine, or however, but what I wanted to say is, it's such an interesting experience, because a lot of this work we did before we had children, in terms of bringing awareness to these things, and even when we had younger children, and now, I mean, Noah's turning 8 in this year, and Makaya's going to be 5, and it's been a very intense like learning stage for both of us. Even just this morning with Noah, oh my God, who is at a very, like, he wants to challenge any boundary or anything, and he asks why, and he wants to push your button, and he wants to see the reactions, and he wants to see how far he can push, and I understand that. And I was that way. And it's such an interesting concept to hold with, like, your children are, I'm not saying that they're extensions of you, but they're carrying the baton of this, all the stuff.
The work that you have done, or the work you have not done.
Exactly. And then you either watch it playing like a horror movie, or you watch it like this, like,
wow, my child is so empowered, and they...
But it all depends on your perspective, and like the tools that you have within yourselves. Because, so in the room, I was so peeved off because he wasn't listening and was just doing his thing. And there was a part of me that just wanted to react. And I just said to him, I was like, no, I understand that you're still learning. You're still learning to be a human being. You've only been doing this for 7 years. And it's a learning process. But at the same time, this is not how we talk to each other. This is not what we do in this house. And like, I could feel the years of like my conditioning wanting to come through in that moment. But instead of passing the baton on of the abuse that I got, I took a breath within myself, and I said to myself, I will not abandon you. And in that same way, it translated to my child, because I said to him, I was like, I explained to him what transactional behavior and transactional love is in that moment. Because I said, I'm not going to be saying yes once you stop doing that, because that's a transaction. And yeah, we do things by principle. And then when he said to me, I understand that, there was a part of me that sort of settled. And then it was a thing of like, this is just how powerful that phrase of, I will not abandon you is. Because it doesn't matter how uncomfortable you get in a situation, or how triggering things are, or how unheard you are, when you know you've got yourself, you are able to access like this pillar of surety within yourself and communicate from there. And your children will feel safe in that, and they will understand that.
I think it's, it does come back to self-worth as well, depending on how you have these conversations with yourself. Yeah. And normally if you are, if you're seeking some form of validation or witnessing, it's this incessant need to be seen. You want to be seen the whole time. And if you're not seen, then it feels like you're abandoned. It feels like you don't exist. It literally feels like the world just doesn't get you. And there's this weight of isolation that arises. And I think, we've externalized this, but how many of us have abandoned ourselves?
For the gain of?
For the gain of this approval, or the gain of this validation, for the gain of success, or meeting the expectations and the ideals that aren't even our own. Yeah. Maybe some of them are. But how many of us have actually just sat down and questioned that? And said, like, is this actually mine? Is this my dream? Is this actually something that I want to pursue? Is this something that I do need to share with the world to validate me moving forward with this? Or is this just something that I get to do for myself because I deserve it, because I want to explore this, because I'm curious, because I'm excited, because I deem myself worthy? And every single time we start off with these type of conversations, the thing that comes up is just this innate worthiness that is available to us.
It's that whole thing of like, you're already whole.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to do or achieve or be anything. You are already worthy. You are already loved just as you are.
And it's just saying, look, I mean, there's layers. So you're possibly in a place now where this could be evoking some feelings, possibly some memories of conversations that you've had, be it with yourself or overheard, or ideas and beliefs that you've internalized about yourself, about your perception of yourself. And all of these nuances, all of these interactions and experiences have contributed to the you that you are experiencing right now. And even the thoughts that are just pulsing through your head in this moment. And just for a moment, I'd love to invite you just to ask yourself the question of, how have I abandoned myself on this journey, to wherever this journey has led you to? How have I looked for or sought after this well-being, this worthiness outside of myself, this validation of the identity that I've strived towards creating and I've put so much time in? And maybe you've read countless books and listened to countless podcasts, and you've meditated, and you have done 50 different types of diets, and you work out every day, and you're quite rigid in your routine, or maybe you're not. Whatever side of the spectrum that you're on, does any of those things actually validate you? Do any of those things add to your identity? Or are they just symptoms of you searching for this innate worthiness and validation that resides within?
Or even just like what people project as even like what is worth something.
Yeah.
Because I think we chase after things to fill those spaces, like brands or big houses or lots of cars or just like material objects to fill those spaces within ourselves. And it comes back to that centering thing of like, I don't need to have, I don't need to be, I don't need to do anything in order to be worthy of those things, and really centering yourself in that. But it does require a lot of courage. It does take vulnerability. It does take having the ability to look at yourself, really look at yourself in your imperfection, in the ugly, in the what you perceive as a failure, or in your darkness. And this is why I think mirror work is so profound for this, because it's literally seeing yourself, not in a figurative way and having this idea of your perception of yourself. It's like looking at yourself, because that is also going to bring up stuff within this space, so
it's so funny you say that. With so many of so many of my clients, just having the conversation of you standing in front of a mirror and looking at yourself and just saying something nice, the amount of resistance with just that interaction with themselves. No one has to see them, just them seeing themselves.
yeah.
And I think if that's something which irks you, as we've just said it, that would probably be a very good practice to start inviting in. It was very uncomfortable for me. I hated it. I absolutely I couldn't look at myself in the eyes, because I just saw this deep sadness and this longing and this yearning, and even the way my eyes sat in my skull, it looked like they were like sunken in. and I'd even like to say, to a degree, glazed over. It's just that they didn't have that life in them.
So you had to literally look at your detachment of yourself.
Yes.
Like how you abandoned yourself.
Look at the abandonment. Look how you've literally abandoned this. You're looking at yourself as an adult. Here's the thing, you're looking at yourself as an adult when you stand in front of that mirror, but it's actually a child that's peering back at you and asking, where the fuck are you?
Because we're going to embody what we feel, and our external is reflecting that
yes.
internal. And
so now go look at, so now if that is the case, just briefly go look through all the different areas of your life. From your spiritual well-being to your emotional well-being, to your mental well-being, to your physical well-being, to your financial well-being, to your relationships, and more importantly, the relationship that you have with yourself.
I just think, even with the women that I've worked with, when we start talking about mirror work, and then they tell me, no, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I put the things on my face, and then I do my makeup. And only then can I do my affirmations when I've done all those steps. And I'm like, whoa, can we stop before you've gotten yourself to a version where you feel is acceptable? Why don't we start with when you just wake up, go brush your teeth, say nice things to yourself when you wake up. Just in the way that you look. So when we think of what embodiment is, and this is the whole thing, our wounds, our core wounds, all of those things, we embody them, we wear them. Our faces are going to tell the story. Your skin is going to tell the story. Your gut health, everything within you is going to reflect what is going on the inside. Embodiment is the cell's awareness of themselves. It's this direct experience. There's no intermediary steps or translations. There's no guide. There's no witness. It's just this fully known consciousness of the experienced moment initiated from the cells, themselves. And in this case, the brain is the last to know. There's just this complete knowing within ourselves. And that's what I'm trying to say is, if you have these core wounds of self-abandonment and detachment and these stories that run rampant in your life, and you are embodying these things, it is going to show. And the best way to see it is really how you look at yourself, if you look at yourself. I love the way Makeo looks at himself. He will literally go stand there in front of the mirror brushing his hair for 45 minutes, and he'll come out telling us do you see how handsome I look? Do I look? And
No. It's a statement.
Yeah.
That he's just sharing what he observes.
I look so handsome.
He really looks handsome. It's
so
just
cool.
he's telling us that we're going to validate that a little bit more. I think it is that. And that when you have abandoned yourself in any way, shape or form, be it that it happens through specific triggers from time to time, there's a lack of weight behind the life that you're living.
A lack of presence. And people can pathologize this and compartmentalize this as much as they want and say, oh, this is your love language, this is your attachment theory, this is all of that. But at the core of it, this is what it is. And I really want to simplify this for not even just people, but for myself. And as if I was speaking to myself at that age, what is it that you would need? And sometimes we really just need someone to say hey, I'm not gonna, I will not abandon you. I will, I love you. I'm here. And just having someone say that, and to know that the full weight of who they are is behind that. Holy shit, what a fucking difference that would have made to a child yearning for that love, acceptance, and validation, what would the world have looked like now if this is not what we needed to rewrite within ourselves?
Try and set a boundary once you've abandoned yourself.
What started this was a TikTok video from someone called Erastus Uso, and this is the text that he said. And what he was speaking about was watching his father love his mother when she was ill. And this was what inspired the whole thing. And I think it's so incredible to see how that father didn't abandon himself. He didn't abandon his family. He didn't abandon his partner when things were bad. Because he had that same story of trust within himself of, I will not abandon you. And it look how it inspired and shifted things for his children, for his wife. They got to see a father love their mother, and that set the foundation of how they love other people. I just think it's such a powerful script. And so now this is something that I will be saying to myself. And so he says, I will not abandon you when your insecurities scream out loud and your doubts come out to play. I will not abandon you on the days where you feel like you're a shadow of yourself. I will not let I will not let myself find perfection in another. You must know that the love that I have for you goes beyond mere words, roses, or butterflies. I will take care of you with everything that I have when your bones are too weak to let you stay on your feet. I will hold you up, and if the world was ending and you couldn't run, I will shut the doors and stay home with you. I will choose you over anything, anyone, and even when it is difficult. And even when it is difficult to, I will not abandon. It was even difficult to I don't know. I think it just speaks to such a tender space. Just to hear that being said to yourself. It's really tender. So if that's something that you need to hear,
put it on repeat.
Put it on repeat. I will not abandon you, even when it's difficult to. I will not abandon you, even when I don't like you. I will not abandon you, even when I don't like what you're doing. Until you start feeling safety. So yeah, we're gonna be.
Speak.
So I hope you enjoyed this approach and these little love notes to our younger selves. And I know this part of our podcast journey feels very vulnerable and
There's a lot of noise out there, and instead of it maybe being this mainstreamed focus, we want to bring it to you from our own personal experience and just our own lived lives, and sometimes vicariously through the paths that we've shared with our clients and the souls that we've been able to work with over the years. So there could be a couple of anecdotes that arise and some beautiful tales. But I hope that...
I think this also speaks to the nature of how we work and who we are and why we do things. This is never a marketing ploy or some story, some hook or anything. This is our real actual lives. These are the things that we're moving through, and we teach and we guide as we are moving through these things, and we're constantly shifting and changing as we do these things. And so I hope it's translated, that you're able to feel the translation of that. And the next part of this series is I will not participate in this, and it speaks to boundaries, toxic family, and friends, and
a little bit of business.
Yeah, just giving yourself permission to really go within yourself and say actually I don't allocate my energy, my time, my resources to this. And then after that we'll go into the other ones with.
We've got a couple, and I think this is going to be quite a long series. So buckle up and enjoy the vulnerability. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope that this met you where you needed to be met on your journey of now. Until next time.